Here.
Commissioner Mareki,
Here.
Commissioner Clementi,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Vice Chair Baydun,
Here.
Chair Kinlock.
Present.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Item B, Chair's remarks.
I have none. Next item on the agenda.
Item C, approval of the minutes from the August 16, 2023 meeting.
A motion is in order.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, this action stands approved. Next item on the agenda.
Item D, under unfinished business, recommending commission approval of recommended comprehensive executive budget appropriations ordinance for fiscal year 2023-2024 and projected budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. I would like to have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported to open a public hearing. Roll call.
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Baker McCormick, Commissioner Mareki,
Yes.
Commissioner Clementi,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson, Vice Chair Baydun.
Yes.
Chair Kinlock.
Yes.
Motion carries. The public hearing is now open.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask, is there anyone who would like to address this committee as it relates to the proposed budget for fiscal years 23-24 and projected budget for fiscal year 24-25? Is there anyone on, let me ask you, Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands on Zoom.
Have you received any letters associated with comments towards for this committee?
No communications have been received.
And I'd like to ask, is there anyone present here who would like to address this body during public hearing at this time regarding the budget? Okay, would you please approach the mic, state your name? Did you fill out a card? Okay, Madam Clerk or staff, would you get them a card to? But you can. Okay. You can. Okay. That's hilarious. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so. Okay. Okay, you can come to the table. Is that green light on? Press it. Thank you, Cara.
You gotta have a green light here.
You're ready to go.
Beam me up. I was just wondering if you have a one-page summary of what the budget is that I can look at just to see how much is you're spending and what's going on.
Okay, let me ask MSMB, is there any handouts or anything? Let me ask staff, is there a summary that's available at this meeting? Okay.
I gotta talk about the whole thing.
Okay, so we're just doing 3 department state, but you can speak to the entire budget as far as any questions, concerns, recommendations.
I just wanted to take a look at it and see what, I don't know, which 3 are you gonna do? Is it?
Okay, so, well, today we're dealing with the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Facilities and Management Planning, as well as the Department of Personnel and Human Resources. Those are the 3 departments before us. But if you have any comments as relates to any area of the budget, you can.
I don't know enough about it. I just wanted to get an overview and see what's taking place. So
Okay.
proceed with whatever. I talked earlier about this deal with Illich because it's going to be a big drain. They're taking money right out of the parks budget, the jail. That shouldn't be taking place. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address this committee? Anyone else who would like to address this committee? Okay, motion is in order to close public hearing. So moved. Is there support? Been moved and supported to close public hearing. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Moving to item D1A, discussing the presentation by the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
So I'd like to ask each speaker if you would please state your name and your position with the county.
Good afternoon to the honorable body. I'm Director Samuel Jafer, Director of Wayne County Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Thank you.
Good morning to the chair and to this body. Nathaniel McQueen, Deputy Director, Wayne County Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Good afternoon. You're not unfamiliar with this body. You have come several times to talk about the important work that you all are doing. So right now we have the proposed budgets. You can proceed.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank the honorable body. Every commissioner throughout the years has always looked at public safety as a priority. And that's much appreciated because it is extremely important to make sure that our citizens and property in Wayne County is safe. As you know, our department consists of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Homeland Security protects and prevents from terrorism. Emergency Management responds and recovers to all incidents, whether it be a disaster, man-made, natural, and we support our police and fire with resources as well as our grants that pay for a majority of our work through the department. That being said, I also have our finance manager who's on Zoom today. Our actual hired finance manager has been on 2 weeks and he's in transition. But Brian Herman, who works as a solutionary planner, who's been a finance manager for years before we moved on. But our last finance manager took a job with another company. That being said, we're ready in anything pertaining to the finance areas that Brian would be speaking to. He's on Zoom, but we are ready for this budget.
Okay, looking at your budget, I'm seeing that there is a decrease in that in regards to the variance, the overseas section 24. Okay, so no, not this year. It's already there. Okay, no. So tell me what are some of the significant, most significant changes to this budget? And what impact, whether it's what impact does it have on your operations?
Really, there hasn't been much of an impact on our operations because at one point during this period, as a deputy director, I was moved up to what is that word? Interim director. And during that time, we also had experienced group in place, and eventually, once the recruitment of a deputy director took place, we were able to fill that position. So we really didn't have any issues in maintaining our department's capabilities to respond and recover. And before our deputy director came on, he was working with the state and he would be supportive at that time. So it was a good choosing on who we have with our staff. So that was a plus for our county.
Okay, thank you. And so based on the recommendation that your department in conjunction with the CEO, this budget is a budget that you feel that you can adequately provide security and safety and consistent operations during the next fiscal year. So you're very comfortable with the resources.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I will now open up for questions. Commissioner Baidoon and then Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Jafer, thank you. And to the entire department for all you do to keep Wayne County residents safe. I know we worked together back in 2021 during the major flood, especially the city of Dearborn when they got hit very hard. Just for the benefit of our audience that might be listening in on Zoom, Director Jafer, if you can just highlight some of the things you were involved in within the last couple of years. And a quick question, was your department on the scene after that MiG-23 crashed over the weekend?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Baydun. We certainly were. Sunday, as you know, tragically, an airplane crashed, but the good thing is, fortunately, nobody was injured. I actually had a chance to speak to that pilot. Believe it or not, he came to the scene day after the crash, near the end of the day when I was working with the NTSB and FAA, and just wanted to see the site and wanted that parachute. It was sentimental value, and you can't blame him. At that point, I called our airport, our VP, Tadario Sturdivant, and we decided, of course, that decision is going to be upon the FAA and the NTSB because it's an ongoing investigation. Well, the FAA was nearby. They came, spoke to him, and actually gave him his parachute. So it was a good story. Very experienced pilot. He knew the engine was going. He looked for an area that was open without homes and so forth. Got close to a building, but it was unbelievable. If you were at that scene, I got some pictures I'll share with our commission. It was fortunate that plane, when it was coming near the ground, I would say from my observations, about 150 yards apart were 3 trees. That plane hit all 3 of those trees. That stopped the momentum with probably within 12 feet of that building. Trees were burned. You could see the black smoke. Other than that, you talk about moving to the 2021 event of the flooding and so forth. We've been busy in our department making sure we mitigate, and our mitigation came up with a plan where we reached out to all our communities in Wayne County that had a drain, DPS department that involved drain and sewage. And from there, we met with Andrew Kendrivas, the Department of Public Service, and they're having monthly meetings. I believe it's monthly with all the community drain and sewage people, just so we're all on the same page, sharing maps, knowing which sewers are counties, which are municipal, just so everyone knows one another and we are able to respond and recover adequately when it comes to these type of emergencies.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Baydun. Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a couple of questions around emergency operations and response.
Sure.
Is there a protocol that commissioners should know if there's some type of national emergency or disaster locally, that a plan of action that we should take as commissioners and disseminate to our constituents? Is there a written plan of any kind that we should have, that we have?
Excellent question. Of course, anytime there's an emergency, we're going to evaluate the situation quickly and expeditiously, send information. Our assistants and so forth. I know Eddie Fakuri holds a important position with the CEO's office. There'll be liaisons through our executive office that would make sure that the information was spread out. Of course, at that point, myself and the deputy director are going to be busy with the actual emergency at scene. And our staff will be, we have an executive assistant who does great work. We'll be making sure, along with our other staff members, that all that information is sent out. Immediately, we would have our communications on board. Our director, Tiffany Jackson, would know what's happening and make sure that all that information gets out. So we have a pretty robust system. Of course, the information would come to you, and that would be a priority to make sure that all the citizens are advised. Yes, you would get that information, ma'am.
Okay, but is there a written plan that we can kind of get an idea of what would happen
course.
in case of an emergency?
Absolutely. We have an emergency operations plan, Wayne County Emergency Operations Plan, that's updated every year. You're more than welcome to have a copy of that. It's that we have a shrunk version that is electronic that I can make sure that you all have.
That would be great.
Would
And some of
please
you
send that
already
to
have it. Pardon?
Would you please send that to the staff and they'll disseminate it to the commission?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I
Continue.
still had a
Continue, I'm
question.
sorry.
Was this to that point or? Oh, okay. So toxic waste. is reported to you, or how does that happen? Because it says notification
Yes.
of potentially toxic hazardous
Yes,
waste.
toxic waste would be reported to Eagle Energy in Great Lakes, which used to be DEQ, and the EPA. We would be notified once the notifications come from different levels. We have a District 2 coordinator at the state that would pass down the information from the state. Ironically, speaking of toxic waste and so forth, yesterday we had a train derailment exercise relative to any spill, especially toxic wastes, which was our concern. We exercised with Washtenaw County at the border of Van Buren and Ypsilanti. In Ypsilanti, close to Van Buren Township, our first responders were there from Downriver Mutual Aid, Western Wayne Mutual Aid. We had our incident command there. I was there, our staff was there. This week, it was just an extremely busy week from the storm, 2 weeks of the storm disaster we just got over. We responded, recovered, and were able to keep some communities operating. Northville Police, Fire, and their municipality was totally out of power because I tell all our emergency managers, remember, when you have a plan too for generators are not, bulletproof. They go down as well. So we were able to go to Northville. I got a call from their police chief, and they were in dire need of power to keep the continuity of operation, their government running. We provided an incident command post, generators, battery chargers, and batteries for police, fire radios. They were very thankful. I got a personal call from that chief, and he expressed his thanks during our emergency manager meeting. But hazardous waste, as you know, is a concern for all, especially our county executive, who stepped to the plate when he saw what was coming into our county. We immediately, as emergency managers, made notifications when we had heard what was happening, and the elected body did what they needed to do to keep our citizens safe and do something to that effect.
Okay, but as of now, there is no protocol set for notification to the county for hazardous waste. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We have,
Okay.
when it comes to hazardous waste, we have a division called the LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee, which Brian Herman leads in our office.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
LEPC is a local emergency planning committee that falls under the super amendment funds at the federal level. It's a group that gets together, and we keep a database of all businesses that carry different chemicals within our county. So for example, one time there was a fire at the 3M Corporation in Livonia. So Livonia Fire would want to make sure that they knew that what the most toxic chemicals were that were very flammable. So we end up going into a database, pulling that information up and making sure they had it. That's stored with the state of Michigan. It's stored with us. And anytime there's a spill, whether it's 1 gallon, a quart, drums of chemicals, it's reported to us. That's shared with the state and the EPA.
And it comes from directly from that agency to Wayne County. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes,
From
I
the
don't know who
local
they
emergency-
send it to different various governments, but I know that we do receive information. We have a 24-hour fax line to receive information after hours as well. Yes.
Okay, one last question.
There you go.
The air quality, is that part of what you do as well
That's-
and notify
right.
us? Okay.
That's the handled by Eagle, where they have physicists and scientists and people who understand atmospheric conditions and air quality and so forth. That information comes through them, and that's handled by our health department because air is a health issue. But we do share information that the health department pushes out to our emergency managers.
Okay, so when we receive an alert, it does not come from you, that's from the health
That
department?
is correct.
Okay,
because that's
just
a health
wanted to
issue.
clarify that. Thank you.
If I may, Commissioner, also just to supplement what the director has said, for each one of that particular municipality, and then we start to ramp up and do what we need to do from that point.
Thank you. Okay, we will have Commissioners Anderson, Marecki, Scott. You have, okay, and Commissioner Colleen will be last.
I for the county's residents. I was going to ask, first of all, Commissioner Baker McCormick, isn't there a service that you can sign up for on your phone to get notifications, such as we've been talking about when there is a hazardous waste spill, something like that? I think we can all probably put that on our phone, correct?
Great question, Commissioner. Yes, we do. We have the Everbridge system that can send emergency alerts to all cell phones, and we can pick an area it goes to.
Mhm.
And it's integrated as well with the IPAWS system, the Integrated Public Awareness System that's run under the Homeland Security FEMA at the federal level. So that's also available as well. But we do have that system that also is shared with other communities in Wayne County.
Okay, can we get that sent to us, whatever that is?
Ye-
Or is it-
Well,
or is it-
yeah, I mean, we control the system, but that system is not just something we send out. There's a training, there's a process, there's rules when you can and can't use, what you can send out.
Can you
I-
send,
I-
can you send out information
Yeah.
inviting us to, who want to participate in
Absolutely.
that? Yep.
Recipients.
Yeah,
so
we are. It's
recipients.
wireless emergency alerts. Absolutely.
That's all, that's
Yeah,
all.
thank you, Commissioner.
But I also had a question about the budget. I noticed salary budgets for the department, Homeland Security Department, take a pretty sizable increase for the current budget year compared to from the current year to the next year, 29% increase. Could you, and then it goes back to basically what right now are the 22-23 budget. It goes almost back to the same amount, actually a little beyond that. Could you explain why the increase and then the decrease going back?
Well, yeah, absolutely. The increase is directly related to recognition of the 4-year 22 USC federal grant. We may be in a grant where we have funds that are identified for 2021,
Mhm.
but when the 2022 funds are awarded, we must put them on our budget to show that they're there. It doesn't mean we're going to use them for that year, but it's to be transparent. We got this money.
Okay,
So, but the good thing is at times, in dire situations, we can go into that money and make sure things are supplemented. It's a random award when it comes to the federal government grants. It's not like our year, the fiscal start in, May and October, and this comes at any time during the year. It's when Congress approves it, sends it to FEMA, and it's awarded. Then it goes to the state, and the state breaks it down and sends it to us. So we can never predict when we're going to get these funds.
so this is then demonstrating that you believe it may not be there, and that's why it's going back to the original amount.
Correct.
Your budget.
Correct. It could be, it may not be there. It depends on once the funds are allocated through the state, when the county actually has the funds in their hand.
And you have your office or your department has a mobile unit, correct? A big,
Correct.
like I guess it would be on-site. type.
Incident command, correct. It's called the command post, sir.
And what is that used for? Do you have like a guideline of what that can be used for?
Yes, we use that to respond and recover from all emergencies that is seen. There's times when police and fire as well will be dealing with the situation. And in order to run and coordinate operations, we'll set up an instant command. It could be a certain distance from the scene. It could be chemicals. So it's got to be a safe distance away. As for inclement weather, we have hot weather where, you need that AC. We have that in the winters. We also have the heating need and so forth. So it's versatile. It's set to where we can use it in all conditions. We've even used it on a major accident on I-75 over the Rouge River Bridge about 10 years ago, where it was below zero and there was like a 70-car pileup to just warm people up until we got them to safety and so forth. So it's a very resourceful tool.
Okay. And I know it was present at the Dearborn facility there, a few years back at a State of the County address.
Yes,
And what was the intended reason for that?
excellent question. We have various law enforcement entities involved in such an event. Not only was the county executive present, but we had dignitaries from higher levels, the governor's office. We had the Oakland County Sheriff. So when we have that type of activity, we want to make sure all law enforcement are on the same page and communicating with the same radio channels. So we'll run our communications through our incident command, where our sheriff department is involved. Basically, it organizes the control of running an emergency and protecting everyone there, including our commission. So you
Yeah,
guys.
15 commissioners, yeah,
Yes, I wanted to get there, of course, the commission. And thanks to the commission that everything we've needed to support the public of Wayne County, you've always been there.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yes, Commissioner Marecki,
Thank you.
Commissioner Marecki, and then Commissioner Scott.
The Wayne County Warehouse, of course, was first brought to my attention during COVID. It was very important. I see that we still have a lot of supplies, but are all the communities updated on this? And do they use this regularly now, or is it more when something crazy happens?
Yes, we do use it regularly. You know, about 3 weeks ago, our health department is doing a great job. Dr. Abdul Sayed, excuse me, and I said Abdul Hadis, our commissioner,
Yeah, come
and
on.
Dr. Dr. Seth, very good job updating our communities. We have an emergency manager meeting quarterly, as well as director meeting with our elected officials on a weekly basis, Monday mornings. So every department within the Wayne County government understands what's taking place, things to look to, and they talked about the uptick of COVID. That being said, of course, at Homeland Security Emergency Management, we want to make sure our police and fire are protected. We're continuously providing PPE, and they know we give them the numbers that we have. We have been fortunate to be able to provide the PPE for all our departments, and we are still doing it as we speak. Our departments within the county and our communities, all public safety.
Okay, one moment, Commissioner Baydun on that point. One
Yes,
second.
sir.
To that point, Director Jafer, I know during COVID, your department received all kinds of equipment that they distributed throughout Wayne County. And she's talking about the warehouse or the big facility. Do you still have a lot of this material that hasn't been used, that's stored? And what would you do with this material for
Well,
the next pandemic? Hopefully not.
Great question. You got to remember, I know we have assisted through the prioritizing of our executive office. Schools needed some masks. I know our COO Janelle Allen has worked with us, and we provided to RISA in schools masks for children where there was an issue, because DTE had provided a group of masks that were for children. So whatever is in our stockpile, it's a continuous database that's accurate. When things are ordered, our executive assistant takes it out of the system and sends it to our logistics. It automatically decreases what's taken out. And when something is put in, so we have an accurate measure. Matter of fact, Deputy Director McQueen at this time deals with our HQ warehouse, and we have a great system going. It's actually state of the art, because from its inception of COVID, we've improved it, and we're able to tell what we have, and it's always shared with our communities and departments.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Marecki, you can continue.
Yeah, that's all.
Yes.
I wanted to know, because
So-
again, I never heard of this until COVID hit, and then all of a
Right.
sudden you were trying to get everything in there.
Right.
So, thank you.
And so, Commissioner, we also have some of our emergency equipment in there.
Okay,
We have downriver hazmat fire trucks. We have
Oh.
liquid foam, many resources that we use to respond and recover from emergencies.
and I see you have retractable black Sharpies. You got it all.
That's from our office.
Okay,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott, then Commissioner.
Can I just follow up?
Oh,
on this here?
absolutely, yeah. of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
for letting me chime in. I'm just wondering, with that system, does it also have expiration dates on some of the materials? And what
Yes.
happens, what do you do if things expire before? Do you have a plan?
Excellent
Thank you.
question. What we do when we see things are about to expire, like those COVID tests, we let people know, hey, we have some COVID tests that are going to expire. Here's the shelf life. And there wasn't many of those because everybody wanted them. 2 weeks ago, we'll bring it out to, elected officials meeting, police and fire meeting, health officials. As the deputy director wrote a note, and it was a worthwhile note, Region 2 South has equipment in our warehouse. Region 2 South is a big part of Region 2 Health Coalition, a big part of our emergency response. Should there be a major event with injuries or life loss, we have makeshift trailers that we can make into makeshift hospitals right in our warehouse. And we have a great partnership with them. I can make a phone call to HEMS, which is in our building, Health Emergency Medical Service. I could tell them, hey, we have, God forbid, a plane that came down. I need to know how many beds are at now it's not Oakwood, it's Beaumont, but there's another new one, Corwell. It keeps changing, right? Corwell.
It changes
Yeah.
monthly.
Yeah, so we got to keep up with that. I can make a call and they could tell me how many beds are in each hospital. So that being said, that warehouse does a lot of good for us. Thank you, Deputy Director.
I think that sometimes the community does not know that Wayne County owns HQ. I get a lot of questions being in that area and I have learned a lot and I'm able to educate people. So I think as commissioners and elected officials, we need to kind of say what's going on there so that people know. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Scott?
Before Commissioner Scott speaks, I just want to follow back to Commissioner Anderson. He brought up a good question. You see our command posts at different communities. We want to show the general public what our commission and county executive do, what we offer to the general public. And being there, not only do they get to see it, but we're in ready mode should there be an emergency.
Sure.
That local event, their police department's in there, our sheriff department. We have this channel set up for our state police. So it's our communications to be ready and respond as expeditiously as possible and effectively.
Okay, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, he started talking about it just now, what they do in the communities. And let me tell you firsthand, they have been in Highland Park, helping when we had those floods. And then when we had the blackout, I had a senior building that the elevators didn't even work. It was, they just didn't have, and you all were there.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Commissioner. It was
stayed
our
there
pleasure.
and took care of them. And so I just want to publicly say how much I appreciate you all. And what
Thank you for the
do.
kind words. And that's what our job is, what we're paid to do. And that this is, for me, the good thing I could say in our unit, and it doesn't matter if everyone did it, all our staff lives in Wayne County. It wasn't chosen that way. It's just, that's the way it is. And so when they're working to protect their own families.
Yeah.
So that goes a long way. So, every citizen is cared for in that sense. We have a very tight networking team and we do everything we can to make sure every spot is covered when it comes to the safety of our citizens. And that's the only way I know you'll accept, and of course, our county executive.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they work well with the county exec and his team and that, and they were out there doing their job for these people, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you. For
And,
the kind words.
well, before your tenure, I had the opportunity to come out there. And so I'm sure that any commissioner wants to go out there and see it under Mr. Buford, who was a Highland Parker.
Yes.
I came out there and got a tour of it. Yeah.
Mr. Buford was with us yesterday at a UIC meeting. He's a great friend and mentor. And when I came on, I was a deputy director. He was a good man. Yes.
He was. He and my son went to school together.
Yes.
They're still best of buds.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both for.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Commissioner Khalil is the last person on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is an emergency plan.
Yes.
It's about this thick. And I haven't had an update to it in 5 or 6 years, so it might be this thick now.
Mhm.
But I think the idea of getting like a 30, I'm just guessing, don't correct me, 30-page summary of all of that. And I think it would be good, I don't know, perhaps in GovOps or something, and for the public to be aware, because we're even, as commissioners, we're asking questions today. You have an emergency plan? Oh, yeah, we got one. So I think to help the public understand more, that if we can have a little hearing and go over that, whatever it is, the shortened version, so that everybody understands. Good afternoon, Director Jafar. I just wanted to go over the toxic again. We have a toxic solid waste landfill in Western Wayne, as well as toxic for liquids, the well.
And well.
Is there anything about those two facilities, because they're receiving toxic waste on a regular basis, that your department is notified about? Well, I want to contrast that with, you know, who has toxic stuff when there's a spill, and you respond to that when there's something. But as far as the day-to-day business of trucks rolling up down in Western Wayne County to dump toxic stuff into the toxic landfill, the federal toxic landfill, do you have any involvement in that? Do you receive any notification? This is what was delivered there today?
That would be under the responsibility of the EPA, and as well, before that, Eagle would get that information as well.
Yeah, that's, I just wanted to clarify. Yeah,
Right.
that's the way it
Right.
is. County
Right.
has nothing to do with it.
Right, correct.
And so when we look at toxic waste, we should think of the two things, the dumps that we have that the feds control, and then any kind of preparation we have. If there's something at a gas station or a dry cleaner or wherever, we respond, your department responds to that.
Correct.
And that's in your plan.
That is correct, sir. We have annexes, everything separate, and you can be assured,
Yeah.
any emergency that we have that's going to be that could be detrimental to the general public, you're going to know. Everyone's going to know about it.
Yeah.
And that being said, we are ready for anything that comes at us and put the best foot forward.
I'm not doubting that. I
Yes.
just want to separate the two.
Absolutely.
The deep injection well and the federal landfill out there is basically none of your business.
Correct.
Nobody tells you anything. When stuff gets dumped out there, any of that kind of stuff.
That's correct. That's
You're to
regulated.
respond. Or if they screw up at that facility and they dump half of it as they're going through the gate, you would respond to that. But as far as the day-to-day business of those two facilities, that's not you at all.
Correct. And when you say we respond, Commissioner, understand that we support the responding firefighters.
I know.
Western Wayne Hazmat, Downriver Hazmat, that deal with hazardous materials. And we have resources that they use. They have resources as well to overcome whatever that emergency
Training,
is.
but
Correct.
I just
correct.
want to make sure we separated those two.
Right.
Yes, thank you,
And
Commissioner.
to that point, it's just emergencies, like he's saying.
Correct,
Not
correct,
the day-to-day
Correct, yeah.
business, but emergencies.
correct. But
then
I
you would be notified.
correct. But I could tell you, when it comes to what's stored and so forth, in different companies within Wayne County,
Mhm.
we have a LEPC, a local emergency planning committee, as I told you, which consists of firefighters and so forth. And our Brian Herman from our office is the lead on that. So we have a track record of that stuff, and we keep in communication with Eagle and the EPA. And it seems like anything relative to any spill that's hazardous, Eagle and EPA has stepped up to the plate, and we've met him at the scene and coordinated and did everything to support to make sure that the county is safe.
Thank you,
Thank
Director
you.
Thank you.
Jafar. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Can you clarify his name again, Brian
Herman,
Brian Herman.
Herman? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, I want to thank you for your presentation, but also I want to thank you for how you always have been proactive coming before this commission, and also giving in-depth information on when there's action items and budget and requests. You come prepared with
Thank you.
information that's important for us to make our decision. Thank you, Mr. McQueen, as well. You both are like I said, no strangers to the commission, and we appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you for the words, and a lot of the credit goes to our whole staff, especially Deputy Director McQueen. Always making sure, as you see, I'm talking about something, if there's something that stands out, he's writing, but we're a great team, and I really appreciate the commission supporting the CEO on having a great deputy director with us as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Great.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Item B, discussion and presentation by the Department of Facilities and Management Planning.
If you would, please state your name as well as your position or job or your title. Yep.
Sure. Good afternoon.
No, you got to press the button.
All right, there we go. Good afternoon, Gregory Hurst, the Director of Facilities Management and Planning.
Daryl Jones, Director of Facility Management.
There we go.
Daryl Jones, Director of Facility Management.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this hearing. And you have in front of you, or we have in front of us, the proposed budget for 23-24 and the projected budget for 24-25. As I've been asking previously, what are some of the most significant changes to this budget? And with regards to those changes, how do they enhance or how do they create some challenges for your department?
Great, thank you. Great question. Before I answer that, I do want to say that so of course, this is a new department for the county. And so this also encompasses not only buildings, but the planning portion would be, which is going to get into special projects, major capital planning and so on.
Yes, so I meant to
Yes, sir.
mention as well, is a new department, but I'm talking about the allocations previously associated with the expenditures. So it's an absolute new department, but where it was housed previously as far as the resources and, Daryl, you're right.
Yeah,
So,
primarily,
right.
I think it's dealing with the new accommodations of the CJC and additional work and different plannings of things that's going to structure the department moving forward.
So if I may as well, I only mentioned that to bring that initial component up is because as we look to move forward as the new department, we will be adding or additional items later in the budget. So I do want to make sure that that is understood as the new department. Once we get into the planning component and the capital management, that will be additional. However, to your point, to the chair, this is a review of the current, but the current is projected to potentially grow later today. To deeply answer that question a little more specifically, as far as charges, if you look at the first component where it says listed A on the left column for the charges, fees, and fines, we're looking at a reduction in the upcoming fiscal year, which is due to the CJC coming online. So what will tend to happen is the reduction of the 4 buildings that are moving into the CJC, the chargebacks that we currently have, we'll no longer see those within this upcoming budget. So there's the reduction for that particular line item. That's where that should be coming from. Additionally, there is the next one where you'll see B, it says other financing. That is the increase, or you'll see the fiscal year 23. There's nothing there, but for fiscal year 23, 24, and potentially 24, 25, the $12.5 million increase, that is also due to the expected expenditures upcoming from the CJC. So that'll be any services, staff components, and all those items all rolled into that particular budget.
important question as we're talking about the move, as we're talking, there's been some, also served as vice chair of the Criminal Justice Complex Committee. And one of the questions is the committee has asked in the past is the timing of the move. We are moving into the winter months. And so are you projecting, are you taking all of that into consideration as far as the moves, any hiccups that can possibly happen, delays that can happen because of the Michigan weather? So just, all the variables have you taken into account? So we to try to lessen any sort of surprises as we move into this new building.
I
A new
believe.
complex.
Right,
not building,
absolutely.
right?
So, but from a budgeting standpoint,
Yes.
we are prepared as if, don't expect it to happen, but let's just say October 1st at the start of the new fiscal year, budgetarily, we are prepared to take on the full expenditures. And so that's where we sit today from the standpoint of the buildings department. If that hypothetically happened, we would be able to care for those expenditures for the entire fiscal year.
So all of our plant management, all of that maintenance and those alike is now up under this new department.
Correct.
Okay, so there has been conversations over the years, or at least since I've been here for a year, but about the concern of all of the rental space. We're a billion-dollar governmental entity, taxing authority and all of that. And yet we have a lot of leases that are out there. Is there a review of those leases and determining, particularly you have the clerk, treasurer's office over there. From my perspective, I'm only one commissioner. It would make sense that they should have a freestanding facility, a building dedicated to their operations instead of us, doling out all this rent all over the place.
So, and that's where I say that's that additional.
That planning piece, that there, okay.
But, so I get some initial feedback with that. So first, we're looking to build that department out, but even with the limited resources that we have today, we can already start to look into, what does that look like? How much, and some of the work has already been done prior to me coming on board by the previous personnel that was in the position for the real estate component. However, I would say that is something that I've discussed, with my start to the position is, hey, can you start taking a look at what those resources are? Are we using them effectively? Are there some ways, what can you do to start evaluating how this looks? And if there's some way to make changes that would better be suited for the county as a whole. And that's going to be taken into consideration our constituents who, use our resources, of course, who are coming in from the standpoint of the public, but then also the standpoint of, everyone that works within the county day to day. So there are a lot of different factors that we're going to have to kind of peel the onion back to look at. But absolutely, that is something that's on the table. And that's something that I'm already starting to think through.
I'm going to be holding your hand as it relates to that issue because it's important. I've been messing with my brother here regarding that whole issue. If us actually, getting out all these darn leases. Thank you. Okay, so any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Marecki, and then Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate what you're talking about trying to get out of some of these leased buildings and trying to bring them within our footprint and not have to pay all these leases. One question I had is, we talked briefly about the rent and expense, other financing. I think it is 12,500,000 being worked into the budget. And what about the buildings that are coming offline? Because we have three, I think, if I remember, 3 facilities, 3 jails that are going to be, once the CJC opens and is fully occupied, we are going to be being able to mothball those other 3 facilities. Sure. So where is that reflected in this budget?
So, and that's a great question. One of the things that, and it's coming in, that was one of the first questions I had is, what is that? Where are we capturing something back? And, what services are we offering? The majority of the services that are rolled into the 12.5 million actually are services that the buildings department is not currently providing. So for example, janitorial for the entire complex, it's going to be millions of dollars for that contract. That is something that will be newly added. Warehouse management services are going to be newly added to that. There's another, the parking management and safety component. So these are things that outside of the staffing that we're going to have for our second shift and the additional startup cost for the materials, so their tools, machinery, things like that that are going to be on site. So the majority of this is going to be due to the new services, several one-time costs. However, we do not have the finite dollar value to date as to exactly how much of that adjusted savings we would have. So that's something that I'm looking into to see if we can, get granular to that level to understand, okay, 75% and now it'll be at 100, or was it 25 is going to be at 100 to see what those, differences are. Don't have that number yet, but that's something we'll be looking into.
So the department being a new department, so we don't have numbers on what was spent for the maintenance, whether it's janitorial services and that for the as well as the JDF. So since we're going to be all in one location, and I know the whole jail project was proposed as something that was going to be a savings down the road. And so I'm hoping that we, are going to make that a reality and not that it's just we're going to continue building services that were not even provided in the two jails in the JDF. So I'm just that's a concern I have, is that we're going to realize those savings that I believe was promised by having that one location and consolidating other facilities. But anyway, I appreciate if you're looking at that, and maybe down the road you can give us a report on that.
Yes. So I would say, and just talking to Daryl, the utilities, it's going to be at least a year, a full, year before we can see what the differences will be. Some of the immediate savings are going to be on the amount of labor that and materials that are spent on those facilities, mainly because you're going to have the amount of work due to the age and the conditions of those facilities is something that we will see within the next budget as well, because we'll see that reduction of labor right off the bat. Now, we've planned for it, and that's shown in the budget, but we'll see those realized savings probably a year or so down the road.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Marecki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You don't have the information that we do, but one of the questions that were asked of you is to provide a list of professional service agreements currently in place, which someone provided us. But I have a question, and I don't know if you have that in front of you, but there's 14 of these companies that there's no history of a bid from our standpoint, as far as the commission standpoint. And I'm wondering why that would be. Do you have that chart?
I believe we do.
I think there's 14 or 15 that we have no history of a bid that you're working with.
Commissioner Ricky, Mr. Darrell, I think some of these companies is that they're newly contracts that we'll probably have at this point. Some of these contracts we've never had and scoped into the work. So some of these no bids or things that you wouldn't have is things that we'll be adding to this complex.
Oh, so you're not working with them yet?
Well, let me add to that as well. So take the first one, Kone.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these are cooperative agreements where they've already been competitively bid by other either governmental or school districts or governmental agencies or school districts, where we're able to take that, as long as it's open, we can look at the scope to make sure that scope of service benefits the services that we need. And we're able to go out and do a competitive bid because that's been done through the cooperative agreement. We as a county can essentially piggyback off of that, that agreement and create a contract.
But don't we still see those bids, even if it's a my deal or whatever? I thought those bids still came to us if they were over a certain amount, which I'm
Correct.
sure.
So,
We
yeah,
still see those.
I don't know if you see, well, I'm not sure, being new to the district, excuse me,
Yeah.
excuse me,
No,
to
no, no, no.
from the school
That's
district
okay.
to the county. I'm not sure if you see them all, but it would be due to the dollar value. So that would be
Okay.
dependent as well.
So maybe all 14 of these are under the 150,000 mark?
It may be the case that some are, I would have to take a look just to see.
Okay.
Just to, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say that that is part of your department's responses. If you can get some confirmation to Terrence and his team as we deliberate over the budget. So that's a follow-up question that should be answered. The threshold associated with each of those contracts that have been, in the responses.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
Through the chair, Terrence Adams, Chief Fiscal Advisor, to try to answer Commissioner Murphy's question. The commission sees contracts, co-ops that are 150 and over.
Right.
But if it's a co-op, we might not see, when you say bids, co-ops usually don't have bids. They usually just attached on to what the co-op already was. And whatever we need, prices are already set by another entity. So we won't have a bids for co-ops.
But they gave us this information. They're saying there's no bid.
Which may be that it might have been a co-op, so there was no bid that they went out and got.
Precisely.
So there would have been a contract through the county associated, but you would not see the RFP or IFP.
No,
Okay.
yeah, it would be the contract that I'm thinking of. I mean, not the other stuff. I mean, I just want to make sure these are, and I appreciate the chair's remarks.
Okay, thank you. The threshold associated with these contracts, do they fall within the threshold that does not require commission review?
So I think what we'll do is there are two things we'll follow up on to make sure we answer your question. One will be, because it's listed as no history of bid, if that's stated there due to it being a potential cooperative contract.
And state that.
We'll state that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
That no bid is what sends the bells and whistles off.
Yeah.
Understood.
Absolutely. Okay, Commissioner Baker McCormick, and then Commissioner Baydun will be last on this.
Thank you, Mr.
Baydun.
Chair.
No, he's gone. know.
For a minute anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, you, okay.
So,
Anderson's last.
maybe a couple years ago, we received a list of buildings that we owned. Is that still at the same level, or how many buildings do we own? And did we sell any or get, I don't know. Did we get rid of any?
Well, you're referring to what we manage as far as facility, or you're referring to the whole county itself?
The whole county.
I don't know that number because what we operate is usually out of 20 buildings that we actually service. And I point, that's an estimate of about 20 buildings.
So 20 buildings you service.
It's a
right
rough, it's a rough.
now. Okay. And did that increase or decrease? The
Well,
number?
it's going to decrease with the CJC being opening from
Right.
that point because we lose 4 buildings that we have not currently.
So -4, then that
Yeah,
would-
it would be.
okay. And so the income that we get from the 20 buildings currently, is that basically what this budget
I'm sorry,
looks at?
Commissioner, would you repeat that again?
The current buildings that we own or manage, the income that we get from the buildings is encompassed in this budget?
Well, we're
The
charged back
revenues.
department, so
Right.
the income is necessarily as we charge back departments is the services that we apply to those departments. So that's primarily what we do as a chargeback department. So incomes coming from this building, like utilities and things like that, is going to be a decrease because that's like steam. 4 of the buildings we have steam. No longer will be operating off of steam in the new complex.
Okay.
Mr. Adams?
Go ahead.
On that point, Commissioner, when you asking for income, you mean like from the Guardian building?
Right, the income.
That income, that's not in facilities and management budget. The income that's received from this building is through EDC, which is
Economic
with-
development, okay.
well, no, not economic development, EDC, the Economic Development Corporation.
Okay.
With the
Stands
stands
alone
alone, but
by
then
itself.
that's passed over, which that's a better question for management and budget to
Okay.
ask.
Okay, but other buildings except the Guardian, is that? what you
Well, the building that we own, there's no rent. There's no income if we're in the buildings and we own them
Right, there, those are the chargebacks.
for their services to
Okay.
those different various departments. There will be a chargeback.
Okay. great.
Okay,
And I still just wanted to, one other question about the Bureau building. You don't do anything with that. What department does the contract for the Buell?
To my
buil-
across the street.
Yes, for
regarding-
parking.
Well, I
for-
think that's an individual
It's
thing.
not through our
Agreement.
department. That's not through our department. I don't
Okay,
think we have
that's not
anything to
through
do with
the-
the Brewer building.
So if
Okay.
you're talking about our particular.
For commissioners.
That was
parking.
something you would speak with Tim Johnson on.
Okay, so it has nothing to do.
Has
with her.
nothing to do with
Okay.
it.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you, that's all. Mhm.
okay, so, okay, so this side, so I'm gonna go to, Commissioner, Baidoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mareki, did you have a question?
I don't.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Commissioner Baidoon will be last.
I was trying to see, well, Colleen is
Go ahead.
back. He might be
He didn't
last.
have to do that. He was reading.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank
I
you.
was trying to find this information. Maybe I missed it. How many leasable spaces do we have in terms of square footage that Wayne County pays lease for throughout Wayne County? And are we paying triple net leases on those facilities? In other words, are we paying the base rent plus the CAM charges, including taxes and whatever the landlord requires? I'm interested, as a real estate broker, I always think about real estate, and I believe in owning real estate, not leasing. And I agree with Commissioner Anderson. We should probably look into consolidating some of these lease properties and try to bring them all into county-owned properties where we can save the taxpayers a lot of money.
I think that is a great question and a great perspective. Unfortunately, I'm not prepared to answer that question today. However, I can get back to you in regards to the particular space. I've looked at it not as an entire package yet. I've been looking at them individually. So some I'm familiar with and others. So as far as the total, that would be something I'd have to get back to you. And then how each leases, how it's stated in the contract, I'd have to see if one is one variation versus the other. But it's something I can definitely get
To
back to you.
to that point, I think we should probably reevaluate everything that we pay in terms of leases and put a plan together to try to come out of these leases when they expire and have a backup plan or have a plan to move into county-owned properties. That's my take on it.
Great.
To that
It's-
point-
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Commissioner, Anderson.
To that point, we've got like a committee that Commissioner Basham heads up. We're supposed
Oh,
to
that's
be
right, I
looking at
forgot,
the
yeah.
whole thing.
That's right. I thought, yeah, I just remembered. Yeah, there's a buildings, yeah.
So I think it's had maybe 2 or 3 meetings so far, and we are looking at that and getting reports back from the administration.
Oh, okay, on that, as you gather that report, it'll be a DO reporting, because this committee's requested it, but I'll definitely get it to that committee to dive further into. But also, to that committee and then DO reporting back to this committee on that.
To the chair, good point. That's what I was going to bring up. Commissioner Anderson hit on it, is that basically we have already developed a department or committee in order to
To do-
research that.
Yes,
information.
perfect. And then Commissioner Clemente will be
I
last.
just want to say, there is a list of all the buildings that we own for.
Yeah, we got
we
that
get it-
email a
we
couple
got
of months
that,
ago.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted her to know that. So
We got that about a month or two ago. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But he asked more an extensive one as far as, a little bit more research. Okay, thank you. So I want to thank you for bringing this information to us and, helping us to deliberate over your budget. We appreciate the work you all are always here. I mean, you're always at commission meetings, as well as that, Michael, and he's here. I mean, and Daryl and y'all always there. And so we appreciate that, your presence. Okay, and thank you, and we'll
Well,
be
thank you, everyone. We
deliberating.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. So the notes and that you presented today, anything that was not already sent to the commission, could you please give them to our staff so we have more of a complete record of today's hearing?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Follow up with Homeland Security. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Item C, discussion and presentation by the Department of Personnel / Human Resources.
I don't think there is one.
To more individuals who are not strangers to the commission as well. We just saw you this morning. Yep. So please state your name and your title with the county, please.
Sure. Donna Wilson, Personnel and Human Resources Director.
Matthew Carmona, Interim Director of Labor Relations.
Thank you. So we have your proposed budget that's been recommended by the county executive as it relates to the personnel department. I'll ask you, as I've asked previous individuals or departments, what are the most significant changes within this budget, specific changes in the budget, and how does it, strengthen your department or create challenges for you?
Sure. So for us, it would be the reintegration of benefits and disability management unit back to PHR. You'll see in some of my statements that I talk about the life cycle of an employee, and from recruitment, retention to retirement, and disability management and healthcare benefits is critical to an employee. So reintegrating the two divisions back into PHR is something that we definitely look forward to in the upcoming year.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask any commissioners, do you have any questions of this department? Any questions? And so with that, I'm going to say you regularly have come before our commission and reporting, and we love the work that you're doing as relates to the collective bargaining and compensation piece. And so we look forward to the upcoming new years as we get additional contracts that this commission can consider. So once again, thank you, and we'll be in touch.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda. Okay, yeah.
Next
Oh, I asked if you had questions. I asked, okay, sorry, y'all messing, but that was easy. No. Okay, next item on the agenda.
Next item, item E, new business. There is none listed. Moving to item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I know of none. No, I know of none.
Item G, public comments.
Pardon me?
We're on item G, public comments.
Okay, any comment? Has anyone raised their hand? Did anyone, did it?
I'm sorry, Chair, we need a motion to pass item 1 for the day.
Okay, yes, okay. It's been moved and supported to pass the item for the day. All